Welcome to Masters Grand Prix. Today in the interview room is a guy who's multi-talented in different events. The world record holder in Pentathlon back in 2008, and now he continues to be a legend. Here we go, Andy Lewis, M50 now. So Andy, over to you. Is that your favourite event, a pentathlon?
I would say way back when I first started athletics, decathlon's always been a favourite of mine because my hero was David Thompson. If you know those that can remember David Thompson, kids at my school cannot remember him for the life of money, but he was the one that actually inspired me into multi-events. I think what people seem to think is that they used to call it the jack of all trades and master at none. However, I love the camaraderie that goes with multi-events, and I seem to be pretty good at the indoor pentathlon, which is half of the actual events that you actually do in an outdoor decathlon. So, I've been doing it a long time. I found that I was pretty good at picking things up very quickly, and especially things like hurdles and stuff where it's very technical. I pick them up very quickly, and I really thoroughly enjoy it because you could have one bad event, but you know you need to focus on the next one and move on and try and actually get an overall good score. So you're not really competing against the person next to you because you're actually competing against yourself and what you do relative to your personal best. So for me, that's quite nice because I can actually relax a lot more and focus on my performance and not the person next to me. So that's why I particularly like sort of multi-events instead of being a single athlete like yourself, Darren.
Excuse me, if you remind everyone here, I actually have done decathlon. And to be honest with you, in my younger days, I always wanted to try decathlon. And the only thing that ever put me off was pole vault. I thought I could probably get over the hurdles, pole vault, frightened to death. But I met Ian Scholes up in Manchester, and he had a go, and it was funny enough because he said to me, he goes to me, "You'll love this," he goes to me, "So what size pole and what weight?" And I just looked at him and went, "What? What are you on about?" I said, "Just a pole." He went, No, you need to know your weight and what." I was like, I said, "I haven't got a clue. I only weigh 11 stone. I said, you do what you need to do," and that's how we all started off. So it was good fun, but after that, I actually got over it. It was only 2 meters, which is very low, but I just thought, if I can get over it, then I'll do a decathlon, which I ended up doing.
And I have to say, Darren, I was there when you did the one at the Worlds.
Yes.
In Malaga, and I have to say I was really impressed because it's not easy. And when you initially took up the challenge, I think prior to that, maybe 2 years before, yes. I mean, you were looking towards that, and to actually go there and just miss out on a medal, I mean, to anyone to do that, it's amazing. So, my respect went out to you on that one, and I'm glad that you're in the group now, and you made me come back into it. Because of you made me come back into it, keeping me on my toes, because I know I can't leave anything to chance if I'm going to compete with you eventually. So yeah, for me it's great because we need that kind of competition. We need the camaraderie. We need someone like yourself who's a personality to try and get the best you can out of everyone else, and that's what you do. And on that note, when you said when you first went to do your pole vault, for me, I did my first ever decathlon as a junior. It was my last year as a junior. It was Middlesex Championships, and my club at that time was Highgate Harriers, and I never be able to pole vault as well. I mean, it was pole vault, hurdles. I'd picked up the discus before. God knows I didn't know what to expect running the 15. All the other events, I could do. So I spent 1 week going over some hurdles, and I went down to Shaftesbury Barnet, and I went down there just to do some pole vault training, just to get a pole and just have a go. And there was a guy there, at the time I think he was British #1, and his name was Michael Edwards.
Right.
And he was there, and he asked me, he just came over. I mean, it's one of the nicest things I imagine someone could do for you. Anyway, I told him what was happening. I've got junior decathlon coming up, and I've never pole vaulted before, and I just want to get over a bar. And he just gave me a few lessons, tips, how to hold the plant, holding the bar, holding the pole, and everything. And I managed to get over height. And in the actual decathlon itself, I did 250. So, I mean, without his help, I don't think I would have got height, to be quite honest. And I actually finished. I got a silver medal in that junior champs, and that kind of kick-started me into thinking, I could be quite good in this, because the guy who beat me, he was an England international, and he only beat me by about 100 points, and that was purely because he was better at the technical events. And I think I said to myself, you know what, I give myself a year of training, find myself a coach, and let's see what we can do. In 1 year, I got my first international. So as you say, I picked things up very, very quickly. And I was determined to try and make this sport something that I would do for a long time. And that's how it all came about, really, at the start. I was just dabbling in a bit of long jump and throws and sprints.
Not a bad long jumper, I believe, though.
Say again?
Not a bad long jumper.
Oh, yes, 7.5 metres over 750. I had an unrecorded 779. It was in Australia, but they didn't actually record that jump, so it's not on Power 10. But yeah, 754. Did it a couple of times. I did 753 in a decathlon, but I did 754 in an individual event. So yeah, as you know, I still do long jump now. Currently ranked number 1 European and number 2 in the world at the moment in the age group, which is quite promising. So I do love my long jump, as you say, Darren, but multi-events, it does still grip me. And as I said to you, when you got me back into it, when you said you were doing decathlon, that's what spurred me on. I'll surely have a challenge in the M50s. So we will meet.
Yeah, I'm hoping so too. The good thing about me, I've come from a sprints background. So everyone knows, and you know, and people who know me think, Dan will be good at the sprints. The one thing I will falter on is technical, as you quite pointed out. That is not easy. And I think a lot of decathletes who have seen me come into it thought, yeah, Darren's looking good at the sprints, but he's going to be poor in the other events. And so mine was to do a decathlon, see which I was bad on, which I found out was quite a few events I was quite bad on. But some events I actually did better than I thought, which was high jump I thought was okay, long jump okay. But when you're talking about the real technical events, for me, the most technical event out of the decathlon, I don't know if you agree with me, it has to be javelin. I find javelin that, yes, I can throw it, but technically, the timing, everything about it, I mean, we're talking about shot put. I can throw a shot put. You'll know there's different types of technique with shot put. For me, I was looking at the easiest. You had the glide and we had the rotation. Yeah. For me, the glide was the simplest to try and, I wouldn't say the simplest, but the one that I could probably implement the most. Yeah. Discus, you can stand. Yeah. But again, if you can implement the turn, you're going to get a better distance. And that's what I did. I looked at myself, went away, and then thought, well, where can I improve? Because I don't want to be a laughing stock of the multi-eventers. I actually want to go away and say, do you know what, guys, I will do my best, I will learn, and I'll come back. And that's how I developed it, and my score slowly improved. So which, in your eyes, out of the 10 events, would you find the most technical difficult?
For me, at the time, I think the most technical one for me at that time was the pole vault. Now, it's one of those where timing is everything. You get a bad plant, it's all over before you even hit the ground. So you get a really good plant, and what happens is you go in so much that you hit the bar on the way up, which means your pole's too soft. Now that can happen on the day where you just get a bit of adrenaline rush and the pole that you use in that particular time is too soft. So at that time, you've wasted a jump, you've got to move on to the next pole, so you've only got 2 jumps to get it right. So for me, pole vault was difficult. I mean, I ended up with a 440 as a personal best eventually, but it took me a long time to actually get to those levels where I was confident enough to know that I could, vault at least 4 meters. But the top guys and the guys, who are like #1 in the country and stuff, they'll vault in 480, 490. My training partner at the time was vaulting 490, and he made it look easy. So for me, it was a battle. But what I felt with what you were just saying, I think the key, you've got one of the key ingredients for decathletes, and that's speed. And I always say to people, if you've got speed, right, you can mould yourself into all those other events. If you think about shot put, at my best, I threw over 14 and a half. Now, I'm not as big as some of those guys that you see throwing the shot. However, I'm very quick across the circle. And I do have combined that with the power that I have. So for me, speed is one of the key ingredients. As you know, your fours, your hurdles, your long jump, your 100 meters, okay? You would find, and even your javelin as well, that speed of release. You've got those fast twitch fibers going, then, as you say, technical for you because, I actually coach a young boy javelin at the moment. And one of the key things is that you got to, it's the actual placement of the foot and keeping the arm back and getting the optimum angle. You could throw it as hard as you can. You get that angle wrong, you know what it'd be like. Yeah. Like a plane, it will just go up and come straight back down. So it's very aerodynamic, as you say. And yes, I can see why for you it would, it's a technical one for you because you haven't done that before. It took me years to eventually throw myself over 50 meters in the javelin because I had the speed and the power, but as you say, getting the angles right, hitting it at the right time was something that took a lot of work to get going. I would also say, Darren, I think with decathlon itself, or even with indoor pentathlon, anything multi-events, is yourself, you can sprint. Okay, yeah. You can. I think personally you should be jumping a lot more, and I could, whether I work with you on that one is not. I don't want you getting too close to me, but you're definitely missing out at least 20-30 centimeters in your long jump, yeah. Right away. And I can coach you now because I'm UK coach jumping coach, yeah. So, however, you've got the speed. So, I would say. For me, and anyone who is doing decathlon, you look at your events that you can turn up and you can run at least this time or whatever. So you know that particular event, although you will be working on it, it doesn't need as much time and attention, right? I don't, to be quite honest, I very rarely do any long jump training. I'll work on some run-ups, but I'll do the drills and the stuff that go with that. So like high knees and anything, short takeoffs. But I very rarely work on my long jump because I know I can always come out and jump close to 6 meters at this age now. But I think it would be more valuable to me that I can knock 10 seconds off my 1500. That's worth a lot more to me than just an extra few centimeters in the long jump or actually getting extra 5 meters in my javelin right now. So for me, it's really, I'm trying to get together the perfect decathlon by working on those events that I know I can score more on, but I need to work on them a little bit more.
Yeah, so exactly. So what we're looking at is you've got to look at your points against what you need to do. And quite rightly, you've just turned around. There's no point in me working on my 100 metres when I'm pretty much at my max, when I can go knock or add centimetres to my long jump or my high jump, and I get a better point score by adding that little bit more up. So yeah, you go away and you look at your event and going, how much could I improve? Quite rightly, you've said there's loads I could work on. Funny enough then, I'll just touch on this one. The 1500 metres, every decathlete I speak to hates the 1500 metres, and I'll be honest, I actually quite like the 1500 metres.
There's something wrong with you, mate. You're not well, man.
No, honestly, the 1500 metres to me is, I find, if somebody said which is the worst event in decathlon, for me, 400 metres. The pain, the lactic, it's just horrible. So if you put that against the 15, I'd say give me the 15 any day because I'd enjoy that more.
No. Do you know what, Darren? Do you see how ugly we look when we run? You watch the normal 1500 meter runs, graceful, technically great, or whatever it is, striding out. Some of them even look like sprinters when they're actually coming down the home straight. But when you watch a decathlete running a 1500, it's laboured. We're all big, not most of us, and it just, I just don't like it. Even though I'll go out there and run and leave everything on the track, it's my worst fear. I mean, when I did the pentathlon, right? So indoor pentathlon, it's 1,000 meters.
Yeah.
Now, I went into that knowing I had two things in my mind. One, I knew the gold medals was in my hands as long as I stayed close to, I think at the time it was Christian Plazier, who was he was second at the time. And it was quite funny. Donald, who you've interviewed recently, he was there, and he was like my biggest fan. He was brilliant. And he was going right, because they were asking him, how fast can you run the 1,000 meters? So they were trying to get a little bit of insider information. So Donald was playing all, I don't know, free this, whatever. He hasn't run really. But I knew what I was capable of running. Now, I knew that I had to just stick behind him and not let him more than, I think it was about 9 seconds. He only beat me by 4 in the end. However, it was horrible. I finished. It was at 10 o'clock at night, and it was the most painful thing you can imagine. And I spent 5 minutes on the floor just trying to recover. However, I did enough, naturally, to win. So as much as I hate it, Darren, I want to be able to go in a position to know that if I want to run, say, like decathlon, now, if I need 5:30 to, either break a British record or, to win the gold, I want to be in 5:20 shape. Right. Yeah. So I want to step on that track, knowing what my score, if I put together, is that right. So I'll need to run, let's say just 5:20, for example. However, all my other scores that add up might mean I only need to run 5:30. Then I'm in good position. But I always know I want a 5:20 in me. So I always go to that last event knowing what I'm capable of running that 15. It's no good thinking to yourself, oh, I'll just do it. Some people can, but for me, that's not an issue. I cannot do that. It's because I find it very, very difficult. But, as with everything, the decathlon is about 10 events, and it's about being proficient in all 10. You might have one or two that are, you could say they are.
If we call them bankers then?
Say again, sorry?
Do we call them bankers, the ones that you put?
Yeah, your bankers, yeah. So I think, and personally, obviously, so if you and me are in the 100 metres, right, and let's say, for example, I don't know, let's put a ballpoint figure in it, you run 11.9, now that might not be good for you, right, in terms of what you've done, but then I go and run 11.9, that's going to be great for me because, I'm looking to run, I was looking to run 12 fat, but I ran 11.9. So relatively speaking, even though you say let's say, for example, you ran 11.7, right, and I ran 11.9, I'm going to be a bit more happier than you are because you wanted probably 11.5, let's say, for example. So in terms of what we're looking at, you're thinking, oh, that's great. So now you've got to, in your head, say to yourself, right, my long jump, you've got to put that aside. I think what decathlon and multi-events is about once that event is gone, is you forget about it, you can't do anything about it, you move on to the next one and just think about, trying out, because you never know, you might get a personal best in that next event. And then you're back on track. So with decathlon, it's multi-events in general. It's one of those mind games you play with yourself. I'm not, even though you've had a bad 100 at that time. I know I'm referring to you, Darren. I'm sorry.
It's all right. No, it's fine. That's fine.
This could happen next year when me and you are doing it, But at the end of the day, I'm not worried about that. I'm happy about what I've done. But I think the thing that I like about decathlon is that might happen, But come the long jump, I'll be watching your feet. I'll be telling you what you need. If I see something, I'll be telling you, you could get this or you do that. It's not like, and you've been in that kind of world, the sprinters world, where it's the single event and you're kind of, you're on your own, you do your kind of thing. And that's why I like decathlon, because I can, go and help others, even though I'm competing against them. To me, that's part of why I do it, because I like, to that camaraderie. It's great in the sense that I can work with, the people that I'm competing against, and just before running a 4, the nerves kick in. You're doing your high jump, the nerves kick in. Trust me, always before a 400. I know what you mean about 4. It's however, every time I used to, even though when I was in shape, when I was running sub 50, every time in those blocks before, I would get nervous, because I'm thinking now, this is all about points now. So if I can knock off half a second, or if I can knock off, a second from what I did last time on my overall score, and I up on my score, that's massive. And you've got 50 seconds to nail it. It could go either way. And that, you always want to finish on a good note, because then you've got to go rest up, eat well, come back out and get ready for day 2. As you know, day 2 is very technical, and it requires a lot more mental and physical focus on those days, because that can change positions quite easily.
Oh, definitely, very, very quickly as well.
Very quickly.
I think day 1 suits the sprinter more.
Yeah, definitely. But at the time when I think 1984, I got bronze in the 3As decathlon. And I was leading day 1, but technical events, even though I did have some good events, I threw over 50 jab, I did over 4 meters in the pole vault, and I ran sub 5 minutes 1500, and my hurdle was sub 15, but my discus let me down. Discus I was a 40 meter thrower, and I only threw something like 33, 34.
Yeah, I think that's one thing with the decathlon. It is a beautiful event, whereas, as you say, you can be up and down, and I think it's great advice there, Andy, that you can just say, as soon as you've done the event, it's like, if you've had a bad day, it's like, get rid of it. If you've had a good one, though, it can bring the other way. Your adrenaline comes out, you're thinking, yes, it's going to be one of them days. But what I've found with the decathlon, I've learned a lot from what you've just said, because I have had events and I'm thinking about the next event, and instead of saying, you know what, do not think about the next event until you come to it. And I've had a lot of advice from the multi-eventers, thinking one at a time, which I have done so, and gone away, and obviously I've kept learning on technical ability. So how do you fit all your training around the events that you've got to do?
Right, so that's a good question. Now, last year, let me take last year for example. Last year was, or pre-Malaga, was a bit of a disaster, because I think personally, my girlfriend will say this to me, because she was absolutely right. I think I was training too hard, and I think I was trying too hard to just get to these levels, because I wanted to go out to those worlds and actually go out and win it.
Yeah.
That's what I believe. When I went to the worlds in 2008, I believed I could win it, and I believed whatever I could get close to the world record, and that's what I was prepared myself for that 2008, and I was trying to do the same again for this. And I think personally I was putting in just a little too much. I was pushing myself too hard, and I think inevitably I broke down, and it took a while for me to get back into thinking to myself, well, is it worth it? Number one, because I got to that point where I thought, is it worth it doing it again? But I knew that I would have to change what I'm doing. And to be fair, my girlfriend, what she done, she basically said, right, you need to cut out some of the training you're doing. Let's focus on the quality, which is honest, is true. So I I probably train no more than 3 times a week. At the moment, I'm doing a little bit more because of lockdown and stuff like that. I've got stuff in the garden stuff, and I've actually got myself into really good shape at the moment. But when I'm back out on there, I will probably train about 3, sometimes 4 a week, when I can. Now, I've got to fit that round, obviously, work and stuff like that. So everything I do now is I focus on the quality. So if I'm doing a speed session, if I'm doing like, I don't know, 150s or just 100s, I will focus on that and make sure that I get myself warmed up properly for that. And I'll do that, and that's it. I'm going home. So it'll be one thing. I'm not going to try and do too many things that day. Also, what I would say is that something like if I do a gym session, I'll do 2, maybe 3 gym sessions a week. So it'd be upper body one day, then I'll do legs the other. I'll do my plyometrics within that. But what I'm trying to do now is I try and do it so that, one, I get good recovery in between training, and 2, I'm not overdoing it. So if I've got 5 150s, for example, Darren, and number 4, I'm actually at the end of my tether, and I think, you know what, I'm really feeling it now. That's it. 4 is finished. I'll just put my trainers on, and I'm gone. Now this year, for example, in terms of as an M50, I have jumped my best. I jumped 597. My first jump of the season, 597. That's my best jump as an M50 at the moment. I did a 604, but it was slightly over the legal limit. But that's the best opening I've ever had in this age group, in a long jump. And I jumped, and I did all 6 jumps, and I didn't feel, how can I say, I didn't feel sort of like my body was hurting. I ran a 200 that day. I did a shot put, and I also did a 60, which I came second in, straight after my last jump. Literally, they were putting their blocks down. I said, oh my God, they're doing it now. Ran over, did that. But year before that, I probably would have broken down. So I've really kind of now just put my sessions, making them quality related rather than quantity. You know, I could load up everything. I could go for long runs, whatever. I might do a long run, but that might be the only thing I do, like a 5K run, just to help my 1500. You know, because I've got a lovely area in Kenley where I can just run around, and I've got a lovely course that I can do, and I would just do that. So for me, and also I would say not just the training. Now, guys, anyone's listening, what has helped me this year is I've just been, since particularly with lockdown and stuff like that, I've been eating really, really well. Now, I still like my fish and chips and you know, whatever. But for me, it's like so diet has really improved me this year. My girlfriend, she's a brilliant cook anyway, and we've been eating healthy. She's made me eat beetroot now. I've never eaten beetroot in my life. Right? I looked at it and said, but I've been doing my research, and obviously there are some additional, you know, qualities that help for, you know, particularly if you're running things like 1500s and stuff.
I just have to say something, Andy, before you go on about beetroot. I know a very good friend of mine got me to eat beetroot on a championship, and he'll know who he is. I'm not mentioning his name, but he'll know about this interview. And we went to, where did we fly out to now? Belgium. We did a Grand Prix in Belgium, and he said, have some beetroot. But he went through the scientific benefits of beetroot, so it's just funny enough you've just mentioned it. And before I forget as well, there was a great tip there about doing too much training, because I always believe that sometimes less can be more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so that was a great tip there. So, yeah, anyway, carry on. I thought I'd just...
Yeah, it's brilliant, I know. So yeah, that's become part of my diet. You know, it's taken 52 years actually for me to actually put some down, and my girlfriend has made me do that. Can you imagine? However, so that's helped, and also what's helped me as well, because I've last couple of years I've been suffering. I've had lower back problems, and that's from a result of doing decathlon, bobsleigh, and stuff like that over the years. And it's funny, this is purely by chance, but I used to take ginger shots many years ago, and suddenly this feed came up on my page, and it was a turmeric company, and they basically had something going on there, and there was a guy, Nigel Benn, who used to box, and I used to love him, and I used to watch him, and he was saying about, these, and some of these shots have got beetroot in it and stuff like that. So I literally called them up, and they were really great, and then they sent me like a couple of 2-3 week samples. So I've been using those, and they've got sort of like anti-inflammatory qualities in it. It's natural stuff. And I'm not an advocate of saying things unless I actually mean them, and I know they. But it's had a for me, because it works for me. Might not work for anyone else, but for me, it's had a massive benefit. Because what's happening now, I'm doing my training. Take one of these in the morning, and I'm not feeling as much pain in my back, or I'm not feeling like. The next day I'm feeling all stiff and sore and stuff like that. So for me, that's an added benefit for me. That's working, and also I would say the training that you do now is, I would say to anyone now, just focus on quality. So if you're doing, so for me now, I would say if I'm planning on doing, I'm thinking now, because I think the world now is 2023, is it? Finland, I think it's changed now, isn't it?
Finland's supposed to be 2021.
Okay.
Gothenburg is now 2023, I believe.
That's right, yeah. So things have changed around a little bit. So am I thinking, right, so I get myself ready for, because before I actually do retire from full sport, I'm doing a decathlon. I will have to do one before I say, right, no more. So that will happen. Whether it's next year, me and you, head to head.
Well, let's hope. Yeah, I heard it here, but I have challenged, but you keep dodging me.
Oh, mate!
Keep dodging me. And I'm putting it here live to you. I'm happy to take you on there. And I'd like to say, obviously, the decathletes always say to other athletes, which I'm going to mention now, is TBLG, which I'm going to use.
Too busy looking good.
I think that was Mr. Alan Leeper that said that to me one day when I was sprinting. Anyway, the good thing is I have come to decathlon, and I'm concentrating on my sprints at the moment, because I've got some other great guy in the M50s who's just come up. He's not a bad athlete, is he? Mr. Jason Carter. So I've got to get on my toes and try and give him a run, and then I'll come back to decathlon a little bit. So I'm still learning and training now. So anyway, I'm going to finish shortly. Is there anything else you would like to put on, or any tips, or anything you would like to add about Masters Athletics?
Well, I would say to people that if you're coming into Masters in general, there's a number of things. I was inspired by other Masters athletes, because I took a break from normal athletics. I decided enough was enough. But then I had a few friends that were doing Masters athletics, got myself back into it, and I've been with it ever since. Now, as you know, I think one of your guys touched on it. You had touched on it before. Masters athletics is for everybody. You've got you and myself who aim high, looking for medals, trying to break records. But then you've got the others who just coming in, maybe want to stay fit, actually experience a championship, and get their own personal best. So for me, Masters is what we call inclusive, and that's why I like it so much. So much so that, number one, in the old Masters magazine, I wrote an article about it. Yeah. And number two, I was inspired to open up the Masters training page, of which you're a member of.
Yes.
And it's 800 plus people. From that inspiration, I've got 800 plus people on there. So for me, that's another vehicle in terms of your YouTube page, and you giving out tips and getting interviews from all different athletes. Fantastic idea, Darren. And your Masters Grand Prix, which you helped set up, and for me, that's one of the best things that has helped Masters in recent years. And with my page, I think it will get bigger and better, and you'll find that more people will get involved who may have never run in their life. And that's the beauty of it. Some people who may have never run in their life come out and do really well, but also add a quality of life to themselves. So for us, we need to be around for a long time, Darren, because we're inspirational. People like yourself, me, Donald, Jason, all those kind of people who have, been there and been at the top, and some, maintaining it year after year. I think we have to try and, maintain a belief that we can inspire many more to come. I know there'll be more coming up, more coming in the 50s to challenge us, and there'll be someone maybe like yourself or someone else to challenge Jason at one point. So he will always stay on his toes, and myself, long jump is the same thing. I always looking, behind my shoulder in case someone gets closer to my distance and stuff like that. So yeah, very inspirational.
Thank you for your time. It's been a privilege interviewing you. I look forward to meeting you again on the track when everything opens up again. I know some tracks have actually opened up, but it's fabulous to get all these athletes on here. So thank you very much for your time, Andy, and long continue being in the master sport.
Don't forget to invite me up to Manchester, mate. I want to come and do a training session.
You always can be invited there.